Hello and good evening. I hope all of you are doing very good and you have enjoyed our sessions for last 2 days. We have discussed why you should choose anthropology, then we have discussed the entire syllabus of anthropology, and today we will discuss how you can improve your score, how you can improve your marks in anthropology. See, optional paper is such a paper in which you require a score that is 300 plus, and if you prepare well, if you prepare under proper guidance, you can very well score 320 plus in anthropology. That is my experience. Many people have scored it, right? So how you can score this much marks, and what should be your strategy, that we are going to discuss today in this session. And in this session I have divided it into 2-3 parts. First we will discuss about the anthropology paper. Then after that we will discuss that what should be our strategy, right? And that strategy I will discuss through 3 key essential ingredients that you need to score high, right? And the second portion is strategy. So let us take this one by one, and before I begin, let me tell you a very important thing that will be important not only for UPSC but in any walk of your life. Whatever you want to do and achieve, if you follow these 3 C's, I can assure you that you will achieve whatever you desire. If you have a goal, if you have an aim, if you have a dream, then what 3 things you need? I am telling you, I call them 3 C's. 3 C's of success. The first and the foremost is your commitment. Second is your consistency. And third is your confidence. All these 3 C's are organically related to each other. If a person have a goal, an aim, a dream, then he must be committed to that goal. And if that person is committed, that means he will do everything to achieve it. He will consistently strive. He will or she will consistently make efforts to achieve that goal, right? Whatever is required to achieve that goal, he or she will do that, okay? And if a person is committed and consistent, naturally that person will have confidence. And with confidence, you can achieve, you can compete better, right? In whatever conditions you are, or with whatever people you are competing. So these 3 C's can be very instrumental in your life, right? So stick to your goal, have that commitment. If there are tough conditions, don't waver. Conditions are there in everybody's life. This COVID pandemic or any other tough condition in life, this should not be a hindrance in your commitment, right? And this should not turn to be an excuse कि pandemic था इसलिए prelims pass नहीं हुआ, pandemic था इसलिए अच्छे number नहीं आया, या whatever you think, right? So commitment, then be consistent. Make your efforts on a regular basis, right? Even you study 1 hour when you don't have that mood, but do study consistently. And both of these things will give you confidence, and that confidence will set you apart from your peers, right? So these are the 3 C's of success. I would say that it may help you So please ponder over this. Now let us come to our discussion on anthropology. So the first thing of this is anthropology paper. And you know that there are two papers in anthropology. Paper 1, paper 2. Both papers are of 250 marks each. Right. And both are further subdivided into two sections. Section A, B, section A and B. In both papers you have 8 questions. Here also 8 questions. Out of these 8 questions, in both question number 1 and 5, these 2 questions are compulsory, that you do not have any choice. You have to attempt all those questions. And along with that, you also need to do one thing, that at least you should solve 4 questions each. At least you should solve 2 questions from any of the section. Right? That means if you are taking 3 questions from section A, then you can attempt 2 from here. You cannot do like you can solve 4 from one section and 1 from this. No, this is not allowed. And question number 1 and 5 is compulsory. Now, if question number 1 and 5 is compulsory, then naturally you don't have choice into that, and you have to attempt whatever UPSC is asking. UPSC is giving you choice in 3 questions. Out of the rest 6 questions, you can take 3 questions, and there is a requirement of your smartness, right? Because if sometimes you pick up a question that you do not know properly, or you have less content on that, then it will be a problem for you, and finally you have to bear the loss, right? So let me come to the other part. Basically that is the basics of anthropology paper that you have to understand before going into it, and I will bring into this smartness when I am going to discuss the strategy further. So let me come to this strategy part, that how you can augment your marks, right? Because the marks of optional are the most important thing that can help you achieve a very decent rank, right? You can easily score 60 to 65% in optional if you work hard. Okay, that I repeat again and again because you can achieve that. Now, strategy, how you can do that and what you should do. So this strategy I have divided into 2 basic parts, one before the exam and one during the exam, right? So before the exam, and in that strategy I have listed 3 main ingredients that I will divide into this 2: before the exam and during the examination. This during the examination means final exam, UPSC, where you will be sitting for mains, right? And before the exams, that means your study part. So let's start with your study part. What all you should do in your study. Let me tell you, although most of you are aware of these things, but still let me reinforce your attitudes, right? Let me awaken some of your forgotten elements, right, in your memory. So that will help you to revise or at least put your efforts in a right direction. Some people will get motivation from this. So let me revise that. Before the exam, the first thing that you should do is that you should cover the entire syllabus. Don't leave any part and don't just cover the entire syllabus, rather have conceptual clarity on it. You should have a very good grip over the concepts, over the terminology, right? So the second thing, don't just cover the syllabus, rather have a grip over it, have a conceptual clarity. And once you develop this conceptual clarity, then sit back with all those topics that you have covered and you have conceptual clarity to analyze them, to explore further, to dig further, right? I am not asking you to read more and more. What I am saying, you have covered the syllabus, you have the conceptual clarity. Now whatever you read in your GS or anthropology, develop links, right? So the next thing, after conceptual clarity, you should analyze each and every topic. In this analysis, you will find that you can anticipate questions, and that is very important thing. You can anticipate what kind of question can be asked from this topic. At the same time, you will develop interlinks between various topics, right? It will give you a very essential thing of anthropology, that is holism, right? You can link various facets, various areas of anthropology while presenting an answer. So that will be your learning stage, your study stage before the exam, what you have to do, right? So what we are doing this is your study stage, right? Now, after doing this analysis and developing the interlinks, right, having the conceptual clarity, you should practice answer writing. You should practice answer writing. And how you practice this? Through previous year questions, or if you are having a good mentor, you can practice the questions given by your mentor, your teacher, or whatever you have anticipated. Practice those questions. Now after writing the questions, many people ask me that should we sit back on the very first day and write a perfect answer in a time limit? I would say it is not possible, right? Because अगर आप उसेन बोल्ट को भी देखेंगे, he did not run for the very first day with the same speed that he runs normally, right? 9.7 or something is the best timing, right? I don't remember exactly, but somewhere near this. So उस स्पीड से वो पहले दिन नहीं दौड़ा था, right? He have trained himself for long years. For us, it may be 1 year when you prepare yourself. So don't think that on the very first day you can write in the defined time of the 7, 8 or 10 minutes. No. First day, when you have conceptual clarity, you have analyze the topic, sit back and then write. Even if it takes a little longer time, it is perfectly all right. You are not different, right? You are the same human being. You are not a mutant. So don't worry here if you take a little more time, right? Then when you write the question, read it once, and if you find something, that is all right. If you don't find, get it corrected, right? Get it corrected from your mentor, your teacher, or any experienced person who have experience with this exam. Okay? And even after getting corrected, you just read it again so that you can realize what mistakes you have made, what strengths you have, what improvements are required, right? And when you have written and get it corrected and got some inputs from others, and you have your own collected some more material okay, or you cut down from your answer something, then rewrite the same question. That I am saying with experience, that you must write it once, get it corrected, get some input from your own side and from the mentor, and then rewrite the same test, same question. This rewritten question, this rewritten question is not a waste, because this is a perfect answer that you have written as far as your understanding goes, right? And this rewritten answer can be very, very useful for you in the final exam, because in the final exam you are always short of time, right? So that practice is very, very necessary. Okay, then you have covered the entire syllabus, you have conceptual clarity, and you have rewritten your very good answer, right, after 2 times practice. This rewritten answer, collect all the answers in a single booklet and keep them for revision in the last time. Okay, so the final stage is your revision. This revision, you must revise at least these answers, your rewritten answers. And the second thing you can do is that if you have made some synopsis, when you have covered this syllabus, some micro notes of your topics, then it will be wonderful for you, because it not only saves your time, rather it will help you to quickly revise in the final 1 week during your mains examination, right? So revision through your rewritten answers and through synopsis that you have prepared. So this is one thing that I suggest to each and everyone. Now, in this there is one common request that I receive from each of the aspirants that visit me, or they call me or interact through any media, that sir likha nahi jata, it is very difficult to write, right? Because it takes a lot of effort and courage to start answer writing. We are in a state of inertia, we are enjoying whatever we are doing, that passive reading, whatever we were doing, we were enjoying that. So how we can break that? How we can start that? See, basically I do understand that inertia in you, right? And most of the people have that. And answer writing is an art. Because while when you start answer writing, you start knowing your weaknesses. And when you start knowing your weaknesses, you don't like it. And if you don't like anything, you won't do it. Right? So that is the basic thing. So start your answer writing with some lighter things. You start writing diary. You can start whatever you see and observe and feel throughout the day in the evening. That will be easy for you. That diary writing will break that inertia first. Right? And when that you have a habit to write, then you can come to your syllabus. Then you can start picking the easy portions of your syllabus and you can start answer writing from there. Right? That will be helpful. I have practiced that on my own and I believe that can be useful for you also. Right? And this has been practiced by many of my students who really did well after practicing through that strategy. Right? Then this is before the basically exam, and what you have to do at your home. This is what you should do, that you should cover the entire syllabus through whatever mean, your self-study, through coachings or whatever, right? You should have a conceptual clarity, you should analyze the topics, and when you analyze, you try to think beyond what is written in the text, right? Don't read again more text from different books, no. Limit your sources, but analyze the text, right? When you analyze, when you develop interlinks, at the same time you will develop some more understanding and you will start drawing some graphics also, right? Or you can say flow charts. practice your diagrams, whatever are there, again and again, so that you can draw those diagrams very easily and quickly without taking much time. So this is what you have to do during a study time. Now this was my first ingredient, that is your study, that I was telling you that I have first one. Now the other two that I am going to discuss is during the exam, right, what you should do and on what things you should focus, right. Basically when you present your answer, then how you present that and what you do during the exam. So let us take those two things. So when you are in the examination and you are not alone, you are with your very learned fellows, your peer group, right, and you know that on 2 questions you don't have any choice, but on 3 questions, rest 3 questions, right, out of these 5 that you have to write, you need to make a choice, right. That choice should be perfect first. Perfect in the sense that you must know the content of those questions, at least better than others. Better than others means on other questions or from other your peer group, right. So the first thing that you know the content, you pick that one, right. Now this decision that you have to take during the exam for those 3 questions, it has to be very swift, right. It has to be very quick, otherwise you will lose on time. So here you have to apply your smartness and swiftness, right. You should smartly pick those questions that you can address very well and that you believe that they will give you better marks. How you can show this smartness, that I am telling you again. So if you haven't seen yesterday's session, then you may not connect it, but let me tell you that in paper 1 anthropology, the part B is mainly physical, some portion of archaeology, and both physical and archaeology is relatively objective in that you have the liberty to draw many diagrams, right. That basically is a very scoring portion. That is a very scoring portion, right. So that you can do, that you can pick 3 questions from the section B, right. That I am telling you irrespective of your background. Some people will feel that we don't have biology background, then how can we address biological anthropology questions, right. Basically the level of questions that you get in this section B of paper 1 will be of very general. The biological understanding is not, it is not, you don't require it to be very deep. It, even general studies level knowledge of biology will be sufficient, right. And you won't have to go beyond the syllabus of 12th also in biology, right. 12वीं तक जो आप पढ़ते हैं उससे ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं पूछा जाता. Even I am saying that even 12th class is more. There are some topics where you require, and I will tell you when the time comes that where you have to focus and where you can take a liberty. Okay, so you can choose from here, that smartness you can show. Similarly in paper 2 you can pick from section A, right, because in section A you will have archaeology, Indian archaeology and Indian society questions. Okay, so here you can pick from section A, that you can do, but that should not be done with a compromise, right. That is why I am saying it, that it should be your smartness, that how you pick those questions. Why? Because suppose you do not know much about that concept, you don't have sufficient content, but if you think that physical anthropology will give you better score, no. If you do not know the topic, you better choose from the socio-cultural part, because at least you will present the content, Okay, and that will give you better score because लिखने के नंबर मिल रहे हैं, क्वेश्चन चूज करने के नहीं मिल रहे हैं, right? Your score will depend upon the content and the way you have expressed it, right? Whether you have fulfilled all the demands of the question or the way you have presented it. Okay, so that smartness you should do it very quickly. Don't waste very much time in it. Then after that we come to the main thing that you all were waiting, that is the expression part, that how you express the questions and what are the requirements the examiner expect from you when the examiner to see your copy, right? How the examiner will think that this is the right guy or girl for to be selected. So how do you write? Now let me tell you that the examiner is looking for 3 key things in your answer. The examiner is looking for 3 most important things in your answer. The first thing is the simplicity. Second thing is holism. And third thing is relevance. If you have understood these 3 SHR formula, right, then I can assure you that your score is basically assured. You can qualify this exam very easily. What I mean by simplicity, that basically your answer is easily understood by anyone who is reading it, right? That means you have used very simple language, right? You have expressed it through diagrams, flow charts. Okay, so that is your simplicity, that anyone can see it and understand it. You have properly used headings. So that is simplicity. You should not complicate your answer. You should not make it very ambiguous. कई बार क्या होता है, कुछ बच्चों को, कुछ एस्पिरेंट्स को ठीक से टॉपिक आता नहीं है, then they basically try to write some ambiguous answer. That at that point it may be the only choice that they have, but simplicity is the most important required in civil services exam. कि कोई भी आपका आंसर पढ़े, कोई भी लेमन आपका आंसर पढ़े, तो they can understand what you want to convey. The second thing is holism. By holism means, that holistic, right? Holistic means everything. That is the demand of that answer is covered, right? It covers everything. Suppose if we have to write on tribal problems, so it gives the background, it writes about the causes of those problems, whether it is poverty, land alienation or anything, and then it also writes on the consequences, what are the various steps taken by the government, and what more is needed. So on all these things you have to write. If you have to write on any other issue, then you cover all the required dimensions of that particular topic or that question. So that is holism. That is content part, right? And the final thing is relevance. Relevance is the application part of that topic, of that content, and how you have linked that theory or that knowledge of anthropology or that concept to the practical life, right? How you have linked that is very, very important, because if you do not write this, you will not get better score in anthropology or in any other topic, even in GS, essay or any other thing. Simplicity, holism and relevance, these are the key and the most essential criteria that the examiner is looking for in your answer. Okay? And naturally you all know that your answer must contain an introduction, a body, and conclusion. Right? An introduction, a body, and conclusion. I won't go much deep into it. I will give you some examples of how you can write a better introduction. Right? So basically, if I say introduction, then what do you mean by introduction? Introduction basically is the preliminary part, or through introduction you set the background. Suppose there is a question, relevance of anthropology, right? This is a question, then how will you introduce this? Many people will write the definition of anthropology by some famous scholar, that is very well understandable. You can write it, and that is the safest way to write an introduction. Okay, you can start because we are asking relevance of anthropology. This is a question asked in UPSC mains earlier. Okay, or you can do other thing by defining it. At the same time, you will write some one or the two line. You write the definition and then you can put comma and anything, that it is the holistic study of mankind, which is not only limited to theory building, rather it has some real life applications in various fields. Okay, so you set the background that what I am going to talk, and then you can talk about in the body part the relevance of all the four branches. Okay, you can do one more thing, that relevance means the applied part of anthropology, or applied anthropology, or development anthropology, or advocacy anthropology. Basically you are talking about that thing. So yesterday I gave you that there are four major branches according to Frank Boas: socio-cultural anthropology, physical anthropology, archaeological anthropology, and linguistic anthropology. And all these four branches have an application. So the question, relevance of anthropology, means this applied anthropology. The examiner want to know and see that whether you understand this applied anthropology or not. You could have used the definition of applied anthropology in the introduction. And when you write the introduction, if you can show some scholar's name, his work, and his definition, at the same time, it gives more impact, because you are using the intellectual integrity. You are giving due credit to the founder, to the originator of that idea, right? And naturally, every time you use that, you will be given due recognition, due respect, and better marks, naturally, right? So that can be introduction. I have told you multiple ways to write it, because there is no, not a single line that can be introduction. You can use it the way you want, you can mold it the way you want through your own linguistic, the language grip, or you can say your own understanding, your own thoughts at that point in time, right? So that can be the thing. And then in body of this relevance of anthropology, you can use that. Let's discuss the relevance of all the four major specializations of anthropology, that is socio-cultural and all, right? Finally, how will you conclude such question? One thing is that in past, anthropology was not seen as that relevant, but nowadays, with more and more research, interdisciplinary collaboration, the relevance of anthropology is recognized in government sector, in private sector, as well as in voluntary sector. That can be your conclusion, right? So in that way you can use that. Now let me come to this part further, because I have not completed this discussion with that only, because this is the simple requirement, right? This is the basic structure, basic, you can say it is a skeleton. Now you have to fill in the mass, right? Muscles and other vessels. You have to put in over this skeleton, right? So how you can do it and what more is required, let me give you some things, and I will give you some practical solutions to many things also. Now, in that I told you first simple language, right? In simple language, I would say that use proper sentences, meaningful sentences, I would say, right? Because sometimes we miss out on is-am-are or necessary grammar. Don't do that, because see, if you do it again and again in every question, it will irritate the examiner, because examiner will think that why this girl do not have better, sufficient grip over the language. So don't do that again and again, and don't write every question in the same format. Some people have a habit that they either write in the point format or they make flowchart in everything, right? Whether it is necessary or not. See, flowchart, if you can draw meaningful flowcharts, they are very good. But sometimes I observe that in order to make flowcharts, some people are just making it. They don't make sense. They don't have a connect also. Some people do that, whatever they make in the flowchart, they repeat it again and again in the question. So don't do that. And that thing I cannot teach you in the class, because unless I see your copies, I cannot correct those copies, and I cannot give the feedback without looking at your copies. But still, that is my simple suggestion, that you should use simple and proper language. Okay, don't use incomplete and incorrect sentences, don't write. Okay, if you don't know proper language, you don't have better grip over the language, you will develop that within 2-3 months. It is not a big deal, because if you are learning too much, you can learn that too, and better you start working from now, right? If you still have problem, please connect with us. I will definitely help you out in that thing. The second thing that I have already told you, that use scholars extensively, right? Wherever we can use. Okay, just make a chart of important scholars, their works, and where you can use it. That can be very useful. From today onwards, what you can do, you can make a chart and you write just 3 things: the name of the scholar, his or her works, whatever book or work they have done, and in which year if possible, and where you will use it, in which topic you will use it. Do it. It will be very, very useful, and paste it somewhere in the room. Okay, and if you keep on looking on those names again and again, one thing that you will remember them for long, and the second thing, when you see them again and again, you can think that I can use this there, I can use this there, right? So that can be very useful for you. Okay, then after that, let me tell you a few names if you want to take, then where you can use. Suppose there is a question on family, you can use G.P. Murdoch, right, his work that is social structure. If there is a topic on kinship, then you can use Radcliffe Brown, you can use Levi Strauss, Dumont, right, Evans Pritchard. All these scholars you can use. Their works also, Radcliffe Brown in his work Social Organization of Australian Tribes in 1931, right. Pritchard's work on Newer, you can use that. Okay, so these are the 5 names that you should do it today itself. That will be useful to you. Okay. The second thing that you can enrich your answer with along with these name of the scholars and their works, is you can draw some graph charts, right, flow charts, or you can make some this like tree. You can show causes, consequences. I will show you how you can do that, right. I will give you an example on tribal problems, and through that I will show you how you can beautifully tell that through the flow chart. Although we see that we don't normally make flow charts in paper 2, right, but how you can make, let me show you just now only. Suppose we take one example. And when you make this chart, see, better you practice at home, because you don't have time there. You have to quickly draw them. Suppose to discuss on poverty, right? You have to make a chart on poverty, problems among tribe, right? What kind of various problems? So tribals have, are suffering from poverty. That all of you know, right? And various committee reports and government statistics, NSSO data, right? They suggest that tribals are most poor and vulnerable section of Indian society. So here you are writing the causes of poverty. So you can divide the causes into two. One is endogenous, and the other is exogenous. Endogenous causes of poverty, that means they are from within their community, within their society, right? And exogenous is because of the outside factors. Now, what are the endogenous factors? You can write here: primitive agriculture, because the level of technology they use is very primitive. Some practice shifting agriculture, right? Some use very rudimentary tools. Primitive agriculture, that means the productivity from that agriculture is low. Then there are factors like alcoholism, right? It is very prevalent problem among tribes. That is part of their cultures and traditions, their rituals. Then there is another cultural problem, that they spend very much. So extravagant spending. On marriage, fairs and festivals, right, that you can write. Then you can make that, see, whatever they do, they stick to the decisions or judgments of their own panchayats, right. So they basically, they stick to their customary laws. I give you an example yesterday of Maler, Paria, Bega, that they practice shifting agriculture and they do not plow the land, because they believe that plowing the land will tear the chest of Mother Earth, and that is why they don't do this. So in this way you can make a graph of endogenous factors, this chart. Then you can elaborate upon exogenous factors. See, you have to practice it because the seat that you get in the UPSC is not that wide. You have to practice it and you have to meaningfully present it. I have this liberty here, so I am making it so wide, but you won't have that liberty. So that is why I am saying that you must practice it. And here I have to show you there in the camera so that you can clearly see this. That is also another purpose. Then exogenous factors is basically exploitation by outsiders. Right, so you can write here exploitation by outsiders. Who are these outsiders? These outsiders are money lenders, right? So you can make some small tabs also if you want to write. These can be money lenders. These can be government officials. These can be NGOs, right? They exploit them, or they can be missionaries. Then there can be other factors like the developmental projects. What developmental projects do? Projects led displacement. So the developmental projects include everything, right? Whether it is roads, dams, etc. Then policy. Even last year there was a news that many of the traditional forest dwellers, they are evicted on Supreme Court order, although that order was later on stayed, right? So that policy can also be one factor. And then whatever protective safeguards are there to protect the tribals, right, from various kinds of exploitation and to basically safeguard their pristinity, their livelihood, are not properly implemented, right? So lack of proper implementation. Now, all these things, these causes of poverty, they are linked. They are linked to what? They are linked to other consequences, because these causes, basically, these or this lead to some consequences. And what are these consequences? If people are poor, tribals are poor, then they will borrow from someone because they have to spend on this marriages, on alcohol, right? And their productivity is very low, what they will eat. So for their basic subsistence, they have to borrow. And when they borrow, that means they are indebted. And if the tribal are indebted, then many are forced into bonded labor. Right? So these are the consequences of this. Then if they are indebted, right, they have taken, either they are bonded, and even whatever land they have, that will be alienated, that will be taken over. So land alienation. This land alienation is two-way property, and it is also linked to indebtedness. So in this way, you can understand, if they are indebted, they are poor, they are landless, naturally their education or literacy rates are very low, right? Literacy will be low. Their health will be, poor. So all these things are interlinked, these causes and consequences are interlinked. Then if these are there, naturally if tribals are facing indebtedness, land alienation and all, there will be some dissentment, right? They are not happy with this state and it will disturb the peace, right? It will disturb the peace and it may lead to rise in many problems. So that is the overall consequence of this can be regionalism, communalism or left-wing extremism or any other things, and they threaten our integrity, right? They threaten our integrity. So in this way you can express everything through this diagram. Just have to put in some statistics and after that you have to write what steps have been taken by the central government, or if there are some constitutional measures, you write constitutional measures, and by state governments. After that, whether these safeguards are sufficient or if they are not sufficient, what more is needed. So in what more is needed, you can quote some committee, right, like Khaka committee or any other committee, whichever you know, right? Or if there is any other recommendation by Ministry of Tribal Affairs or any other like Niti Aayog. So if there is any special recommendation or if you have read something from your understanding from a foreign case study, you can incorporate that in your suggestions, right? So that can be your answer, that you can make some flowcharts, okay? And in this I have shown you holism also, because we have discussed the background, the statistics, right? We have discussed what are the causes, what can be the consequences, what steps have been taken by various bodies, and whether they are sufficient or not, right? We have analyzed that and we have told that what more is needed, right? So through that we can quote some committee report like Kaga committee, or you can quote some Niti Aayog reports also, there is no harm in it, right? And that is where I am talking about, that you have shown practical relevance, that what can really be done, right? What can really be done? Your suggestions will be that relevance, right? That this analysis, this anthropological study can be useful to make tribal living better, right? Their problem of poverty can be solved through this analysis. Because if we can holistically analyze the cause, we can naturally find a solution, okay? So that is what the holism and relevance means, okay? Then along that definitions, okay, the name of scholars and these flowcharts, you will find diagrams in physical anthropology and archaeological anthropology, but you can make charts on socio-cultural part also. In paper 2 also, I will keep on telling you about different such charts again and again, but this is one such chart, right? You can quote statistics. Some people ask me that sir हमारे पास data नहीं होता है. Data is available on Ministry of Tribal Affairs website, right? The latest data will be available, and if you are joining these classes, we will provide you, we will curate each and everything which is necessary from all the necessary sources, whether it is Ministry of Tribal Affairs or any committee report or the current affairs that you have to cover, right? So all data will be available. Everything on tribal paper 2 will be available in these notes that we will provide, and we will cover that in class also. Okay, so let us take some examples that how you can structure your answer, right? How you can show holism in your answers. So let me take few questions so that you can make better sense out of it, right? There is a question, See, there can be a short note, there can be a longer question. So I am taking a short note, patterns of culture. Right. Patterns of culture. This is the question. This is a short note in 10 marker. What you will write? Basically, some people will think that let's start with the definition of culture. Right. Basically, if you start with the definition of culture, it is not harmful, but it is not contributing to this theme. This theme is basically different. This question, patterns of culture, is basically the name of a book written by Ruth Benedict in 1934. This is the name of book, which is written in 1934. Right. So if you start with culture definition by E.B. Tyler or any other standard definition, then you will miss out on the main theme of this question. So what you should do? Right. You can start, let me first give you the structure and then I will fill in details into it. You write introduction into it. After introduction, because this is a book, this is a generalization, this is a kind of theory that was given by Ruth Benedict. So that theory that there are, every culture has its own unique pattern. It must be influenced by someone, some scholars, some school of thought. So influences. Then you write what are the main bases or premises. Right? Premises of this theory. What this theory says. Okay. Then what methodologies were used. Right, and basically after that what are the critiques, and finally you can conclude this. Okay, so these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. In a 10 marker question, if you can give these 7 headings, I would say it is, first thing, your answer will be visible, right? It will be very expressive. Examiner will be happy that the examiner will not have to make so much effort in reading your answer, in making sense out of it. So you have given these 7 headings. Now let me tell you that what it says, the patterns of culture. This theory of pattern of culture was propounded by Ruth Benedict in her book Patterns of Culture, where she emphasized that every culture has a unique pattern, right? And this theory was most instrumental in promoting the Boasian idea of cultural relativism throughout the world. This is the introduction to this question, right? It was a theory propounded by Ruth Benedict in her book Patterns of Culture, where she emphasized that each culture has a unique pattern, and this theory was very instrumental in promoting the idea of cultural relativism, Boasian idea of cultural relativism throughout the world. Basically, Ruth Benedict was the most important scholar to propound this cultural relativism after Frank Boas. Okay, this theory was influenced by the Boasian tradition, Frank Boas and his school of cultural relativism, as well as this theory was also influenced by functionalists. Functionalists believe that culture is a united, integrated whole, that where all components of culture are interlinked. So it is basically influenced by Boas, functionalists, and not only functionalists, but this school, this theory, patterns of culture, was also influenced by the psychological approach. Right? The psychological approach. That you will understand how it was influenced by psychological approach. Because she was talking about the genius, right? The special genius which are found in each culture. Then after that you will write premises. She says that every culture is unique and culture is personality writ large. Suppose you want to see my culture, you want to understand my culture and its pattern. So basically you zoom out my personality. She says, zoom out this personality on a big screen, right? And there you will have the culture. So she says that culture is personality writ large. She also says that culture is integrated functional whole, right? Where it is made up of constituent units which are arranged and configured in a unique fashion. And then she says that integration in these constituent units. Culture is a unique whole. Right? And these constituent units are arranged in a unique fashion. This integration in the culture is brought about by some common tendencies which is found in the personalities of the people, right? So these are some basic premises, okay? And finally what the theory says, that there exists a pattern of culture. Each culture has its own pattern, right? And she basically through her field work found two types of cultures. One is Apollonian and other is Dionysian. You can write it as in theory. Then you can write methodologies. In methodologies you can write that she did extensive field work through participant observation, right? And she applied the psychological approach also when she is talking about the special genius which is found in the personality of all individuals. Okay. This school was criticized by Maurice Obler, who says that there are no patterns, rather there are themes which are found in each and every culture, right? And there was another criticism that she is only talking about two personality types, that is Dionysian and Apollonian. Right? Finally you have to write a conclusion, right? So what conclusion you can make, that she not only incorporated the psychological elements through ethnographic research, rather she applied beautifully the functional and Boasian tradition in a unique way. And this theory was very instrumental in promoting peace throughout the world. That I am talking about relevance, right? The holism was visible in this, simplicity was there, and finally you are talking in conclusion about the relevance, that this was instrumental in promoting peace through the idea of cultural relativism, right? Because it emphasizes that each culture is unique. So that three things, that simplicity, holism and relevance, all the three are visible. This is important everywhere, whether you write a GS answer, you write an essay, or you write anthropology, right? So this is the question that I have to tell you. Then there are many other questions that I have to discuss, but we have limitation of time also, right? We cannot discuss many questions. I believe that I have done justice with you, while I have to tell you that how you can increase your score, how you can improve your score in anthropology. So basically my one suggestion that you must take home for today is that you practice writing on a daily basis. If you want to increase your score, practice writing on a daily basis. Try to improve it by reading the answers of others or other books, by applying your own knowledge, and at the same time get it corrected by some senior, your teacher, or wherever you can, so that you can have better insight where you are lagging and what you are learning on a daily basis. Basically, make targets for daily, right? You should improve on a daily basis. You should grow every day as a human being. Then only you can qualify this exam with ease and with good rank, right? Answer writing, your hard work on a daily basis is your key for the success, and I believe if you want to enrich your subject, your discipline, and want to score higher, you should practice answer writing. You should analyze more deeply. Limit your sources from where you have to study. Don't read everything, right, whatever you get in the market or in the internet nowadays. Limit your sources, collect them at one place, and then think over it, how you will use it, which point you can use where, right? And follow this simplicity, holism, and relevance. These three things should be visible in all your answers, right? At the same time, you should enrich them with the name of the scholars, right, their works and their definitions, wherever you can do it, right? Then you must do one thing, that is diagrams and flowcharts. Okay. Then one thing that I have missed until now, and I have left deliberately, was case study, because I want to tell you the case study on poverty also. I want to tell on other things also, and I have prepared some case studies for your today's discussion. Basically, you have to give case studies, relevant case studies, in paper 2 especially, right? In paper 2, you have to write case studies wherever you can. The case studies are not, I have to write it down. Yes, case studies basically, they need not to be only showing the pain, right, or the cause, like the Goti system in Juangs of Odisha, right, which shows that bonded labor, or Halia system of Saharias, or you can write that Dr. Nadeem Hasnan's study on that Kotlas, right, that they cannot own land because their culture prohibits that. So they are in bonded system, right? So these studies you can and you should incorporate. They need not to be the cause or the pain only. You can provide some happy case studies also, right, which basically have resulted in some good also. So basically these case studies, what they do, they enrich your answer, they give an anthropological perspective to your answer, especially in paper 2. Now, there are two things that I want to tell you here before ending our session, because just I recalled. So, there are two things that you should keep in mind. One, many people ask, sir, how will we get anthropological perspective? Because the question may be the problems of scheduled caste or minorities. कैसे हम इसमें anthropological perspective डालें? This is basically a common question from many of the students, right? And second thing is, sir, can we use our GS knowledge in anthropology? So, the answer to the second question is yes. You can and you should use your knowledge of GS, whatever you read, right, if within limits. I would not say that you write a generalistic answer, right? And the second question is, what is anthropological perspective? Okay, so anthropological perspective can be, through various things. First thing is anthropological perspective is holistic perspective. You write each dimension of that topic, that is anthropological perspective. First thing, the simplest thing. The second thing is through the use of scholars and their scholarly work. Third is case studies. Right? And these case studies basically make it more holistic. Right? It justifies the arguments that you have produced. Right? So this is what I have to say, that follow this SHR report, policy while you write answers. Right? And on case studies we will take more sessions in times to come. Right? We will meet, and when you come then we will definitely discuss. And my simple suggestion is that choose your questions very carefully. Try to write them on a regular basis, right? No, not regular basis. Basically, you have to write in the exam, right? In a time frame of 3 hours. So you must choose them swiftly, and then you can write it very effectively, right? So this is all for this session. And tomorrow we will have another session at 11 o'clock in the morning, right, where I will be discussing about anthropology, its meaning and relevance, right. These things we are going to discuss tomorrow 11 o'clock in the morning, and I hope I did justice with this session, right. If you have any query, you can come to us. Thank you, and take care. All the very best.